Vodafone presents the pre-match.
G'day guys, good morning, good evening I suppose really. Let's have a good day here at the ESL Pro League North America Day 2. It is our first day, Kevin, but for everybody else watching, it is of course the second day of ESL Pro League. And today we've got 6 more matches coming up. We had a good day yesterday. I watched it here bright and early this morning. Very excited to get away with more Counter-Strike action.
Yeah, absolutely. Was able to catch some of the action as well myself yesterday, and it's always good to see how these teams are going to go overall in the season. You've got some of the nice developing teams, how they're going to establish themselves alongside with the already established teams, how they're going to make their way into the finals. Yeah,
there's lots going on. Obviously, we've got a new sort of Renegades looking roster. compLexity is going to be their first match, or their second match, their first match for today. We saw them up against E United yesterday. They looked pretty good there. There's a lot of storylines that kind of have to look at so far today and throughout the rest of this season. But for me, interestingly, personally, obviously Renegades is going to be one of those teams that I want to have a look at because they are one of the Aussies.
For me, on the flip side, right, outside of being the Aussie team, I'm more fascinated in terms of your complexities, your NRG, as well as your E United, like your Rogue and Ghost, because Pro League back in season 5 or season 6, I think it was like Ghost Gaming as well as Rogue. They were kind of the teams at the bottom of the ladder. You could see them developing over the time to get where they are now. Obviously a lot of lineup changes, and that's something I want to see coming into this as well. How are these other upcoming teams going to go overall?
Yeah, exactly. So we need to keep an eye on that. Obviously, there's a lot of teams that are already kind of established. You're looking at like sort of Team Liquid, MIBR, I suppose, although they're still sort of kind of going through a bit of a build phase. I mean, compLexity had that great run at the Face Major as well, so they're definitely another one to kind of keep an eye on. But these new teams that you're talking about, the likes of Team Envy, obviously Renegades were, I suppose, a contender last season. I think they sat in 5th place at the end of the season. They're definitely one to keep an eye on. I mean, you've got the likes of Rogue even, who had a pretty good starting performance yesterday. But there's lots going on. I think at the moment, though, for the ESL Pro League in the North American region, it's kind of a little bit more up in the air than some of the other seasons have been. You know, you look at the seasons of old, you think, okay, well, SK and Cloud9 have probably got this one on lockdown. I guess you look at this and you probably think, okay, probably Team Liquid have got this one on lockdown, but NRG might be able to sneak in there somewhere. They had a pretty good season last season. So there's a kind of a lot of variables that we need to keep an eye on throughout the next few weeks and throughout the entire season.
For me, in my mind, it should be Team Liquid as well as NRG, definitely up near the top. MIBR, it's just really troubling to, I guess, to see them drop at 2-0 against Ghost Gaming. It wasn't even close, if I remember correctly, in terms of the scoreline. I mean, Ghost are good, don't get me wrong, but it should have been a much closer competition than that.
Well, yeah, and again, we sort of talk about MIBR all the time when we go to these big LAN events and that kind of thing. They come to an online match, they go up against Ghost Gaming. Maybe they haven't put 100% into that matchup that we saw yesterday. So I don't know how much stock I want to take in that one result. But obviously, if that kind of result continues throughout the season, then you're going to have to start talking about it, seeing it as a bit of an issue. But certainly a good start for Ghost Gaming, and hopefully that's, again, another one of those sort of new, or not so new, but those rosters that you kind of have to keep an eye on, because they are a bit of a dark horse in this this season of the Pro League. We're not expecting them to be necessarily the best team in the region, but they're obviously shown already that they can take some matches off the top teams, and that really can affect the standings later on down the track.
Under Steel's leadership, as well as the firepower they have in terms of their new pickups, they can actually do really, really well. So they might be able to sneak into finals, which is something which would be absurd to say 2 seasons ago, but now it is. It can be reality.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking about what we're going to be having a look at today, Kevin, obviously we've got quite a few good matches coming up. We're talking about the likes of Renegades, and we're talking about the likes of compLexity. All of those teams are going to be wanting to make their way to Odense. Obviously, that's later on down the track, quite a long way away, December 7th to 9th. So it's still a fair way down the track. But that's kind of the goal for all of these teams, and it's been, I guess, a tumultuous time for a lot of the rosters in the North American region. But obviously making their way to Dallas, making their way to the finals would be a nice little prize reward at the end of the tunnel for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're just coming into the part where, like we were saying earlier, it was just after the major, just after the player break, just after the player break, you want the teams just to kind of establish themselves. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so let's see what we are going to be watching today here on the B stream. It is going to be Renegades versus compLexity to start the day off. We've got then a compLexity double header where we're going to be watching NRG up against compLexity after that, and then Cloud9 against E United. Personally, Kevin, I'm most excited for that Renegades game. I gave the reasons beforehand, but I'm sure you probably are going to mirror them.
See, I disagree with you completely. I would honestly say it's compLexity versus Renegades as a lineup. Not compLexity versus Renegades, sorry, but compLexity versus NRG really is the matchup that I really want to be looking at overall. And then tonight we're going to be closing out with Cloud9 up against E United as well. So I don't know how to make of this Cloud9 versus E United matchup, but I guess that we'll talk about it afterwards. But yep, NRG versus compLexity, that's the one I'm looking for.
Yeah, most definitely. On the mainstream, NRG and Ghost. I don't think that's too much of a crazy game, although obviously given some of the results yesterday, I suppose you could kind of put a little bit of credence toward it. Luminosity and MIBR, well, there's a little bit of history there as well. And Renegades versus Rogue, well, I mean, again, personally interested in Renegades, but for me, I think if they can get over compLexity, they should be able to get over Rogue. Ricky did a fairly good performance for Rogue, and he's a former Renegades member, so again, there's lots of history there, but who knows? Quite an interesting day of Counter-Strike to come, however. As, like you said, there's a lot of these teams that we're not so sure how they're going to play out throughout this this season. I mean, even Cloud9 is another one of them. They've had some pretty crazy roster changes of late. I was kind of surprised when they add Golden, but then when they add Flusher as well, it's like, what on earth is going on here? Is this the European Pro League or is this the North American Pro League? I'm kind of a little bit confused right now. It's a conflict.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, Cloud9, they needed a complete shuffle around. They needed a change, and with Flusher as well as Golden, they're trying to get a little bit more firepower, probably a little bit more IGLing in. They still have the recipe for success.
Yeah.
You still got Rush, you still got Automatic, and you have Skadoodle, when he's on point, can actually win you the game. So, yeah, I have to see how Flusher and Golden integrate themselves into the roster overall.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of that throughout this entire season, and a lot of the other things throughout the entire season that we need to keep an eye on. Obviously, Mountain Dew League, as well as kind of the path to the ESL Pro League. So if you're interested in that, maybe you're an up-and-coming professional player, or you think that you're an up-and-coming professional player, head over to Mountain Dew League there on the ESCA.net, and you can sort of figure everything out, and maybe we'll be casting you next season. Who knows? That's obviously the dream, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of developmental pathways, obviously through the Mountain Dew League, a couple of casters as well that do cover the matches, so you get a little bit of limelight. Maybe you can make it a Reddit, who knows?
Make it to Reddit. Well, all in all, there's a lot of things to kind of keep an eye on here. You want to be playing faster in this season, of course, Kevin. It's the ESL Pro League, so if you're in the season for the first time, you know, you haven't been playing this kind of competition before, then you need to be sort of stepping things up. So that's obviously another thing that a lot of these teams have to be aware of. A lot of new players in this season, even in our first matchup. I mean, technically, Gratisfaction and Lias have played an ESL Pro League season before, but not in North America. They've been in Asia, and that's a little bit of an easier path to the finals than what it is, I think, in the North American region. So for both of those two players in particular, in our first matchup, that is a step up, and we saw them doing that fairly well yesterday. I thought, maybe there's a little bit of bias there again, but I thought Lias and Gratisfaction did okay. However, against E United, that's one thing. Against compLexity is going to be another.
Yeah, and it's startling to see kind of the mirror matchup here, because compLexity, you've got very similar style players, right? You've got, say for example, Yay and Android. You can compare them to maybe your Lias and JKS, because very similar roles in terms of rifler. They're pretty consistent. They're fragging out hard. In terms of the IGLing, that is where the discrepancy in my mind is going to be. I think Renegades has a little bit more firepower, but ultimately there's going to be a lot more strategies. Obviously, that's going to be the case for compLexity, because, well, Renegades, they only just got together recently. They're not going to have insane, in-depth strategies just yet.
Yeah. Yesterday was their first two official matches. Anyway, let's have a look at who is going to be playing for both of these rosters. Most people, I think, should be aware. Obviously, the two new additions to Renegades, like we spoke about, Lias and Gratisfaction. Azza now, to my understanding, is the in-game leader for Renegades. So as far as I'm aware, he hasn't in-game led, which is kind of what you are sort of touching on there with that statement. But for compLexity, it's the same compLexity, I think, apart from Stanislaw, that played in the last season of ESL Pro League. And I mean, look, to be fair, last season of ESL Pro League, it didn't go amazingly for compLexity. I think they sat in 10th at the end of the season. But that being said, their form recently has been pretty good. So, I mean, if you looked at this matchup last season, you would say probably Renegades should come out 2-0, and indeed they did come out 2-0 last season when they played against compLexity. But of late, the history actually does favour to Renegades. It could probably even lean towards compLexity a little bit today.
100% they should lean to compLexity. You got to be favouring them at this stage in terms of, well, what have compLexity achieved so far in the last couple of weeks or months, right? They've been able to make their way into the quarterfinals of the Face-It Major. They were able to do so well in terms of taking out a lot of best of ones. But that's where we have to take a step back, right? They did very well in best of ones against tier 2 teams. They didn't verse off against, like, say, Astralis or insanely strong teams that would have really tested their mettle. We kind of know where compLexity sit at now in terms of a best of 1 format. They're definitely better than a tier 2 team. Yeah. But where does Renegades sit at?
Well,
that's the true question. Exactly,
because Renegades was always sort of in the top middle of the pack, I suppose, for the North American region. They were never really contending for first place or second place or third place, but they were always there in the middle of the pack, sitting around 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th kind of area. And I think, again, that's probably where we could see them again. If Gratisfaction and Liaz can transfer that form that we've seen from the Aussie region over to North America. Now, we know that they've had quite a bit of international exposure. They both played IEM Sydney earlier on this year. Liaz went to IEM Katowice earlier in the year as well. They've been around for a fair bit, and they've been playing international competition, but this is kind of still another step up, still another ball game for them. So big kind of shoes to fill, and I suppose it's quite an exciting time to be an Australian Counter-Strike fan.
Yes and no. It's a pretty cop-out statement. Yes, because it is exciting because you kind of see more of the Australians as well as the Kiwis in terms of Gratisfaction having more opportunities, but it's also problematic because it goes down to the crux of the problem, right? As there is IGLing, who's helping him?
No idea. I actually spoke to Gratisfaction yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
And I asked, who's IGLing for you guys? And he goes, me. And I was like, are you trolling me? And he goes, yeah, it's Azza. So maybe Gratisfaction's helping him.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, right, is Gratisfaction, looking in what he did in Greyhounds, was that he was able to get established into a system. Now, will Renegades assist with that, or how's it going to go from there?
I don't know. We have to find out. I looked okay yesterday.
That's when I say no, because it is a worrying part for me coming in and going, okay, as is IGLing, let's see how it goes, but how are they going to develop the system?
It's going to take a while, isn't it? Obviously,
this
is yesterday's matches for Renegades, as far as I'm aware, were their first official matches as a roster. So we're maybe not even expecting to see it in the first couple of weeks of ESL Pro League North America. Maybe toward the end of the season is where we're going to start to be able to really kind of keep an eye on those sorts of things. But for the moment, I think they're probably just going to be plugging it out more or less. And that went okay yesterday against E United. Azza, even despite having the IGL duties, was having a fantastic performance. So all in all, I think it really is just going to come down to that in this matchup here against compLexity. I do think Renegades have enough firepower to deal with compLexity man for man. But like you say, I think it's going to come a lot down to how things are going to play out on each individual map. Now, from my understanding, I think the first map for today is going to be Dust2. That is the choice of Renegades. Probably part of the reason for that is obviously that they're a new roster. You can plug it out a little bit on Dust2, and a lot of these guys are going to be very, very comfortable on Dust2, being that they've been around for a fair while.
Yeah, Dust2 has always been the fallback as well for Renegades earlier on in the past, so not surprising to see that happen once again. Whereas, I mean, for compLexity, their map pool is much more in depth at this stage, so they'll be pretty happy playing on Dust2 and trying a few things out.
Yeah. So you've heard our opinions now. Let's have a look and see what everyone else's opinions are, Kevin. We'll have a look at the Betway odds, and it's leaning toward the side of compLexity here. I think that's it's fair in a way. I'm not so sure I would be too averse to putting a little bit on Renegades based on those odds. I do think that they have a fairly decent chance in this matchup, especially on this map. It is their map, so you kind of got to give them a little bit of credit there. But I think I probably would I would probably say a 1-1 here. I think with each team picking up their map would be a fairly reasonable prediction.
I'm going to say 2-0 for complexity. I think they're still in too good of a form in recent times, as well as just the fact that they're able to come in and bring in structure. That's a completely difference that Renegades won't be able to bring that in. I don't think their sheer firepower approach will work like it did against E United yesterday. Complexity are too good for that.
Maybe I'm taking a little bit too much from the matches yesterday because it did look very easy for Renegades. So this is a different task for sure.
I mean, on the flip side as well, E United, they didn't look crash hot coming in yesterday. It just looked like they weren't hitting some of their shots, and you can forgive them for that a couple of times. But like the better teams, they'll know how to punish what the Renegades were doing. And Complexity is definitely a better team than E United. You were talking about earlier how the Pro League is a completely different ballgame. And E United, this is their first season in.
Sure.
For a lot of these guys, it is going to be the first testing ground. Whereas for Complexity, they've been here and done it how many times now?
Yeah, definitely. You look across the roster, Shazam's been there, Def's been there, Stanislaw. I mean, Ye, I think, was last season his first season? I'm not so sure. But Android, even aside, has certainly been around for quite a few seasons as well. But here we go on to map number 1 for today. Renegades will be starting on the T side, Complexity on CT. And we've got a little bit of a utility-based setup here for Renegades. A couple of smokes, flashbangs for Gatisfaction and Azza to start things off.
Yeah, boost actually being deployed as well from the CTs just to get that short catwalk control. That also allows control of the lower dark position. So as a result, actually, sorry, Complexity taking that position. Renegades just going to be filtering full out through the long position instead. And they got Stanislaw just going to be periodically spotting over from default box.
Yeah, so Renegades option at the moment is toward long. Ye will decide to push into mid. Important information there for the T side, and Jacob will lead the charge toward the A bomb site. Ye now re-peeking JKS, just biding his time, being that lurk. Needs to find one here, but won't be able to. The bomb site has at least kind of been established for Renegades, and they will get the bomb down, but Def has managed to find one in the meanwhile, and that does put the numbers quite heavily in the favor of Renegades, or rather heavily in the favor of Complexity. And Gatisfaction tries to do his best, gets 2, but it won't be enough. Ye will shut down Jacob, and the pistol will go the way of Complexity.
Yeah, just very nicely set up from Complexity. Just coming in all together at the same time on the retake. You can see they just got the numbers advantage from that point onwards and just leveraged it to their success. Renegades, unfortunately, couldn't be connecting those shots. And, I mean, they did manage to get the bomb plant down, which is going to be beneficial because it means they get the third round buy up. Complexity, they definitely want to be farming up a lot of cash with these SMGs.
Yeah, MP5's out for the majority of the Complexity players. Nothing really too much invested in by Renegades. Naturally, they can get that AK buy in the next round, so that's what they're going to be going for. At the moment, it's a case of just try and do some early damage to the CT economy. Definitely don't want to let it build up too much on the CT side. And Kevin, I don't know about you, but we've been talking a little bit about how Dust2 can be T or CT sided. I think at the moment it's still sort of just leaning a little bit to the CTs, ever so slightly. So a 9-6 first half scoreline here for Complexity wouldn't be too bad of a shout, I don't think.
I think ultimately it does depend on how well a T side or a CT side can get started, but Ye is just going to be getting a bit of cash right now. Shazam's going to give a bit of assistance as well. That's really solid coming out. Ye is just fragging it out. Such a happy chappy.
Yeah, that's perfect for Complexity. Not a single gun lost, 4 kills out onto the SMG, or it might have been 3. I think he got 1 with the USP. Regardless, he's up to 5.3k on the second round, so it's definitely a pretty good start for Complexity. Renegades, however, now do have the AKs and utility in their hands. Unable to get a second bomb down does mean that little bit of extra utility will escape them. But this is their best chance for a round now, since obviously the pistol. So this is the first round where we really get to have a bit of a gauge as to how this matchup is actually going to play out. Are Renegades actually going to be able to do something, or is it going to be all the way of Complexity? And by the looks of things, JKS has just been caught off guard in the back easily by Def. And it's definitely not a good start for Renegades in this round. Gives an AK over to Complexity, and it just sort of shows that they're already reading the play a lot better than what Renegades are, because Renegades have done the exact same thing that they did on the pistol round. As it gets chunked low, and that grenade is going to put him down even further.
See, that's just, I don't know what to make of that overall, but that wasn't really the solid play from Renegades that you needed to see. You knew that Complexity still had SMGs most likely. They had to make a risky play, and JKS just caught wandering off the wrong way. Now, Shazam has been tagged down quite low, but he's been chipping away and doing a bit of damage as well at the same time. Depth has overextended. Allows Renegades to potentially try and move over to a different part of the map to see how they can go.
Yeah, they obviously initially set up the same way, but now just trying to change something up. 45 seconds still on the clock here for Renegades. Not too much time considering how little map control they actually do have. Shazam's going to spot out Jacob through the mid doors. That's not too fun at all for him. And little by little, these Renegades players are getting tagged lower and lower and lower. And again, taking an aim battle with Shazam in middle with a scout. It's not going to work in the favor of Renegades. Liaz here, he'll need to find the next frag if compLexity are going to have any hope of losing this round, but it really does seem like already a foregone conclusion for Renegades. Shazam decides better off peeking into mid, which probably is a smart move in the end, but once more, Stanislaw pushing through the upper halls.
He knows that he's got teammates covering mid. That is so clean coming out from compLexity and Renegades. This is the... I mean, it's still early days, don't get me wrong, but not the best signs seeing your AKs drop against SMGs.
No, definitely not. And in that kind of fashion as well, where it didn't really seem like Renegades were ever in a position to control that round. compLexity were the ones that were owning it from the start. Now the upgrade comes across for the majority of those weapons. Scout's still there for Shazam, but that will be more than enough to deal with just the pistols that Renegades are going to throw at this CT side. And once again, it's that 4-1 split that we see time and time again from Renegades on Dust2. This is the third round out of 4 now that they've actually used it. Hopefully in the next gun round they're going to change things up, because it seems as though compLexity are just reading this like a book.
I mean, it hasn't even been extraordinary play. It's just been solid play coming out from compLexity. That's all they've needed so far. And Azza, I mean, that's probably... they've actually brought themselves in with a big opportunity at the moment, unless Android can frag it up.
Which he certainly can. Jacob will drop. That was the AK and the full HP player. Azza is an afterthought for compLexity. 4-0. And Renegades now into their second gun round, this time with Gratisfaction on the AWP. Glass Cannon. Shazam has also picked up the AWP. He's got a little bit of extra money to play with, so he'll have utility and armor to boot. But another chance here for Renegades, and one that they definitely do not want to let go begging. Gratisfaction won't see anybody on the cross, courtesy of that smoke. So he can't give that info over to his team, but at least a bit of a change up here from Renegades.
Yeah, but Shazam already just gives him the greeting with the AWP, watching the angle. And everything is just slowly resetting to much more of a default. That said, though, Jacob is pretty fast out mid at this stage, and he's going to be the linchpin for success at the moment for the Renegades. He's gone, hang on a moment, I've got this mid control right now, lads. Let's see where we can go from here. Is Azza's going to be flashed in by Gratisfaction to try to get the short position.
2 players to deal with, however, one of them being an AWP, and that's never going to be easy for a player coming in to deal with. Stanislaw does actually manage to take that peek, and Azza will go down. AWP not required from Shazam, and already player advantage once more in the favor of compLexity. Gratisfaction again being tagged low, of course, earlier by Shazam, and things are still not looking good for Renegades here. This gun round not working in their favor. Android just wrapping around the back. Gratisfaction will be able to get 1, but Android will get 3. And all 3 are headshots as well. So solid. And Liaz will do his best here to trade out, but at this point, what does it even really matter? He'll get a gun out of the hands of Def, and I suppose it does matter right now for Renegades. They need to be getting as much damage to that CT economy done as possible, because you can already see it is building up something astronomically. Android up 10k, and so any little bit of damage is going to be at least useful for Renegades later on down the track, but that's assuming they get the opportunity to even break the compLexity economy, which at the moment it's not looking like they will.
It is going to be difficult, but Liaz going to give it a good crack. I don't think he needs to save at this particular point in time. He doesn't have... well, he has to save now because there's no time to get the bomb plant down. But what compLexity are just doing at this stage is they're just taking map control off the seas, and there's nothing that Renegades can really do.
Will survive in the smoke, so the AK at least will progress on through the round, which might enable a buy to come out here from Renegades, although it looks like it is just going to be the pistol and armor to follow up Liaz. Now this is something that we would be not averse to seeing in the Australian region. Liaz with an AK and the rest of his team with pistol and armor, and give Liaz the opportunity to see what he can do. But so far, Liaz has been a little quiet here. Admittedly, 5 rounds in. Admittedly, the game hasn't really been favouring Renegades, and he hasn't had those opportunities. But this is a round now where he needs to step up for Renegades and find that opening if Renegades want to win this round.
Stanislaw looking to take the peak as Renegades have taken this big tunnels control, but Azza dropping low. Stanislaw gets quite a decent chunk of information before he falls out as well. Shazam's actually in a precarious situation, but still manages to pick off Jacob, and Depth is there on the pick. It just seems like compLexity just knows exactly what's going on, and there is absolutely nothing Renegades can do at this stage.
Yeah, most certainly does seem that way. Another player will fall. It was a nice pop flash, but Shazam with the timing and then backed up well by Def, so it kind of looked like a precarious spot. And what is that shot?
Oh,
JK
all
just
right.
gets him through the doors. Well, any damage is good damage for Renegades, but realistically, that's not enough damage to trouble compLexity at this point. In fact, it is actually going to be enough to allow compLexity to continue to build the economy. Renegades this time, however, should get a good proper buy through. Liaz will be lacking any form of utility. It's going to be a pause. I wonder if this is a tactical pause from the Renegades. Certainly not a bad time for it.
Yeah, this is... I mean, compLexity haven't even whipped out the double op strat yet, and I don't know. They're just in control at this stage. Renegades just not taking this map control just off compLexity, where it just seems like every single time they're going somewhere, compLexity have the correct read. You see that pop flash coming in through mid, Shazam is backed up from depth, and there's nothing that you can do as Renegades. So that is a sick flashbang.
Yep.
Perfect passage to play to make, and you still get countered.
So Liaz is in the end going to go for the AK and the head armor, which means he's got absolutely no grenades. But plenty along the rest of the Renegades players. Shazam and Gratisfaction will take a bit of a peek in middle, and very, very smart from Gratisfaction. I'm not sure that he even spotted Shazam there or was just aware enough that he could be creeping through that smoke. Regardless, this is the first time that two picks are actually going to go the way of Renegades to start the round off. So now this is where they need to capitalize and consolidate on this round and ensure that they don't throw it away.
I mean, compLexity there were just a little bit... Well, let's be realistic. That was way too loose from compLexity, and Android is going to torch, so he's going to have to push in, and Jacob having a bit of a nap.
Yeah, but he does have teammates all around him who will be able to trade out quite effectively. Just Def left lag, and I'm not sure they'll expect him to come from a middle, given that they've already seen two players in that position. Not that it matters too much right now for Renegades. There's not too much of a threat to them, as long as they're working in groups in towards the A bomb site. Maybe we'll see JKS drop here, but he's certainly aware of what Def can be doing. First round will go the way of a Renegade. 6-1 now. It's a start. But of course, plenty of cash on the side of compLexity. And like you said, just playing a little bit loose in that round. Expect them to go back to something a little bit more standard here in this next round. But economy is fairly low right now for compLexity. Should they lose this one, they'll be reset. And that is Renegade's way back into this map. For now, it's most certainly been all compLexity. But it's not over yet. It's barely even begun. Only 7 or 8 rounds in. So Renegades are still going to be giving this one their best crack.
This is much better from Renegades, how they're taking this map control first. They're making sure that compLexity can't be pushing into any cheeky angles, and then they can utilize the rest of their map control from mid and see where they can leverage their commanding position from.
Well, Solid 30 wins the race for Renegades. A little bit of presence towards mid, but in the end they will actually opt to go up through short. Perhaps a push into bedroom from Ye, if he does get a little bit too eager on that CT side, but decides to fall back in toward pit. So Renegades have now established control of short. Grenade going to be thrown in there from compLexity to do a little bit of damage, but nothing too substantial. Nothing to trouble the scorers for Renegades at this point. Some utility being used toward long as well, so information given to compLexity that there is a player there. Smoke out now for short, and Shazam will watch the angle with the orb. Someone's going to need to deal with him, and Jacob does that very, very well. Thought Shazam was at least going to be good for one, but not too bad of a trade for Renegades. However, they have lost long control, so we're expecting a short plan, and that is what is going to be given by Gratisfaction, I believe it was, that was planting the bomb. And a nice equalizing shot from Gratisfaction as well.
That's actually critical. Actually get some control of that long area. Now Jacob is just going to be destroying them in CT. That's solid from Jacob. Especially in the entry and getting 2 there. That's probably won the round from there.
JKS peeking through the Molotov. Android not expecting it. But to be fair, he did need to make a play, and that was a fairly decent looking one. JKS just gambled correctly. And compLexity will drop a second round. Now they are on the eco. Renegades starting to stage a little bit of a comeback. They've gotten rid of that nervy jumpiness at the start of the day and have started to establish themselves a little bit more now on that T side. Gratisfaction has hit a few nice shots, and quickly toward the B bomb site he will lead the charge. Doesn't spot anyone, and that is because compLexity have stacked the A site. They're stacked long. Renegades not yet aware of it, but they will be very shortly aware that the B bomb site is more or less untouched.
Yeah, you'd like to think that they'd eventually know, especially with JKS on the entry. So this round, we'll probably just write it off already. I don't even think compLexity are in the position to do any damage as well. Liaz is, I think, just periodically peeking over into mid as well as his bedroom area just to make sure he can spot out a few CTs if possible. But it is a solid recovery from Renegades, and it looks like that tactical pause has helped, especially with their first time. Well, sure, compLexity did play a little bit loose, but it could have definitely punished Renegades if they continued the same standard they were playing. They've actually been able to calibrate and change the way that they're going to be taking the map, and it's looking so much better. So we've got a match now.
Well, it's been a decent recovery to this point for Renegades, but they're not really in control of this first half. I would still say compLexity are in a very, very good spot right now. Their next gun round is going to be coming up shortly. If they win that, Renegades might still have enough money for another gun round through, but it really depends on the circumstances. I think there still needs to be some more work done for Renegades here, though, before we get too eager in this first half.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that Renegades have won the game from how they're approaching this, but at the very least is that they've shown the ability to adapt, and instead of just falling into the same pit trap, they're able to nullify the dangers. All right. When they were taking the A bomb site, that example from the short smokes, they had the Molotov on the site, they had the flashbangs to make sure the AWP was either going to be blinded off or pushed onto a different angle, and they double peeked him at the same time. So now compLexity have to have a recovery. And it looks like so far they're just continuing their default of taking this long control, leaving Yay here, and then Stanislaw going back to CT. This does mean that A side is actually quite susceptible.
Yeah, and quite an important round for compLexity as well, because their money is so low. Even if they do win this one, if they drop, you know, 3 or 4 players, Renegades are going to get a full buy through next round as well, and even then they can get reset straight away. So if you're compLexity and you win this round, you want to be taking quite a substantial amount of guns through just to give yourself a pretty good chance in the next round as well, because Renegades are in a far better position economically speaking, and this time once again headed toward the A bomb site where they did have success in the last round.
It boils down to the numbers game at most of the time, but Stanislaw is really the linchpin in this case, and it looks like he is going to be coming back to this short area. compLexity, only a single flashbang left to work with in depth. Trying to play around the edge of the flashbang. Az is still here, though. As now Renegades looking to hit this B bomb site.
Slow and steady for Renegades. They don't have too much time to work with. So if anything goes wrong right now for this T side, then it's going to go very horribly wrong as they enter the bomb site. Az will drop. Decent enough trade, though, from the rest of the Renegades players. They need to get rid of Def, and they will do that. 3v2. Now, if compLexity do want to try and retake the site, but eventually, the bomb is actually going to have to go down here for Renegades.
One on the long rotate around. Yeah, he's making a ton of noise, and Gratisfaction not hearing it until it's too late. This is actually a huge opportunity right now for compLexity to jump back straight into it. Shazam, not expecting to be peeked from windows. Both JKS and JK managed to make their way out.
Yeah, you're going to go for a bit of an aggressive push here. He needs to try and make a play. Jacob aware of it, however, he'll drop very quickly, and now it's on JKS. He hasn't managed to do anything, and yeah, he will get the defuse despite it being a 10-second defuse. He has plenty of time, and Renegades, a round that they probably should have won, has gone the way of compLexity. Very important round for compLexity, but like I said, Kevin, if only one gun comes through here from compLexity, the buy is not going to be great on that CT side. Renegades still have a really good shot here at resetting them. Obviously, you'd prefer to have done it last round, but it's not over just yet. They're not out of hot water, compLexity.
100%, but man, you just got to be looking at that and just going, A, that was a sick play from Yay, but B, that was just a severe misplay coming out from Renegades as well. I shouldn't say a team misplay, but just individually, just not some of the members not firing up. Now, once again, it's going to be bedroom control coming out. Liaz should be calling this one over to the players on Renegades, so they don't need to be taking so much time taking this short control. And I guess we'll see where to go from there. You can see JKS, he's aware of the fact that compLexity pushed in a couple of times in the B site, so he's just going to be posted on this angle to make sure compLexity can't take map control. And this is the exact key what Renegades needed to do. Take this mid area safely, see what your B and A site players can do, or you'll just to make sure that compLexity aren't pushing in, and then execute somewhere after you take this territory off the CTs.
Well, Renegades this time going to be setting up quite a few utilities toward the A bomb site. Gratisfaction will lead the slow but steady charge for the Renegades. In fact, he'll be boosted up. Shazam aware of it, does only get the leg shot. Gratisfaction will fall back down. But already a good start for compLexity as it forces Renegades off, forces them to rethink, and they've already invested quite a bit of utility into that A bomb site.
And just look at this setup coming out from compLexity. Talk about putting all your eggs in one basket. There is no one on the B bomb site at this stage, and if JKS decides to make a bit of a wander around at this stage, and it looks like the Renegades are going to be setting up for the B bomb site, and Android has utility to hold off the tunnels position. They're going to be trying to smoke down mid. Android, he's the only player here, but he's putting up a good fight.
A good fight, but is it going to be good enough? Gratisfaction able to get into that B bomb site just in time to get the bomb down. 3v4 on the retake, however, this is favourable enough for compLexity. Problem is, it is the B bomb site, which is notoriously difficult for retaking. But at least compLexity do have quite a bit of utility to play with. Perhaps one of these Renegades players needs to make a play, needs to try and find an opening, and that's exactly what JKS is doing, wrapping around the back. No one from compLexity has any idea, and JKS will find two before being shut down by Shazam. That might just be the play that allows Renegades through in the round. Liaz will get Shazam pushing through the doors, and that bomb timer has ticked almost too far away for Yay. And there is no kit, so the round will go the way of Renegades, but again, another very expensive one on both sides.
That was just all down to JKS making the individual play and winning. And Gratisfaction just not covering out the correct angles so far with the AWP. Don't know what's going on there, but a couple of missed opportunities already for Gratisfaction to secure the round from that position. Nevertheless, Renegades building up the rounds right now, whereas for compLexity, they are going to be on the force buy on the back of the saved AWP.
Oh, well, could be a double eco here for compLexity, which is part of the reason why they have decided to go for the force. Damage already done by Gratisfaction with the AWP, but Renegades filtering out onto the B site. Haven't found a pick just yet. Android, however, cannot calibrate the aim with the MP5. Always difficult if you don't get the first shot across with that gun to kind of keep things in track. And so Renegades will actually make their way into the B site quite easily. And now compLexity, their option really is to try and just save that AK. Sorry, save the AWP, not the AK. If they could find an AK, that would be lovely. I'm not so sure Renegades are going to be too eager to give them that opportunity. There might be one in CT shortly, however.
Yeah, but Shazam's isolated at this stage. None of his teammates are with him. And as a result, it means that, yeah, you drop one of the AWPers. Yeah, he's actually picked up a kill. That's pretty big, because that's $600 in the bank account.
Yeah, round definitely could have gotten a lot worse for compLexity. Could have definitely gone a lot better for Renegades. So in the end, compLexity will take the AWP and an AK through. They still won't be able to buy, but at least they have something to play with in this one. Renegades, of course, are going to have as much weaponry and utility as they would like, but for their own right, their economy is still not that great. Should still be decent enough to get a buy through next round, especially if they get the bomb plant down. But obviously for Renegades, they're going to be hoping that they would end up winning this round as opposed to losing it. Let's not harp on about the worst case scenario too much.
Okay, looks like they're making a bit of a wander in, and they're going to be bullied off just as Shazam peeks in. That's unlucky. That is really unfortunate. You can see JKS, he knew what was going on, but just a little bit too slow to drop the grenade.
Well, at least there has been the stabilization by the remaining Renegades players. Jacob does a fairly good job, but the bomb has been spotted here by compLexity, so if they were going to be able to do anything, it would have been off the fact that they do find that pick onto JKS. They do spot the bomb out early, but
I don't think they knew the bomb was in backyard.
Oh, really?
No, it was in backyard. I don't think they actually wandered out to go spot it out. So
I thought it was sitting in the little connector between backyard and upper dark, but perhaps I was wrong. My eyes are getting a little bit fuzzy in the old age. Can't see what's going on the minimap. But regardless, the round obviously hasn't hinged on that too much anyway, as Renegades have quite easily cleaned up the remaining complexity players. And we're going to buy through here again. Shazam will be missing the AWP, so it should be full rifles for complexity in this one, which will be a bit of a detriment, I think, actually. I feel as though Shazam has been quite impactful with the AWP, especially early on in the rounds. The Renegades make it back to 7 and 6, so at least in my eyes, they've kind of hit that pass score now. An opportunity for them to actually take the lead and kind of steal away this first half a little bit.
As is straight out at the moment, right into pit, and well, the CTs just have to give it up. So no, barely any HP damage as well, as Renegades more than content just to sit on this default for now and just see where else they can go. Jacob's also thinking about making a venture yonder down mid.
A little bit of control into long for Renegades now. They haven't been able to do too much with it just yet. Waiting for a push out from complexity, which, to be fair, is what complexity have done a couple of times on that CT side, and it does look like it may be something that they'll do again here. Stanislaw could throw a pop flash over for Def and Yay, and it's actually going to flash Def and Yay. Jacob says thank you very much for the 2 free kills. Shazam wrapping around the back would have got it had Stanislaw not, but a lot of damage already done there by Jacob. He gets Stanislaw down to 40. That's a fantastic start for Renegades.
Yeah, that just means Renegades, they're going, oh, I wonder, there's one mid. At most, there can be one on the A bomb site. Let's just go A instead. And they're just smoking off, making sure that Stanislaw is contained. And even Android, really difficult pathway in as JKS is making sure that some of the rear angles are being nullified and just keeping the CTs boxed in for now. So much more solid stuff from Renegades, especially, I mean, to be fair, complexity did give it to them on a bit of a platter at this particular point in time.
They did, but that's going to put Renegades at 7 apiece, so it doesn't really matter how they get the rounds at this point. I think they're just happy to be getting rounds on the board, and it's actually going to put the Renegades in a really, really good spot to find an 8th round in this half because, well, Complexity's money is not going to be too great in the next. They're going to have to force through with whatever they can manage. Android will be lucky to get that AK. Lucky enough, I should say, I suppose, not lucky. So there's an AK to go through, but it's going to have to be a force buy from the rest of the Complexity boys in this round. Beautiful stuff from Jacob. He did get flashed by the pop flash, but obviously he knew that there was opponents coming and readied himself for that. Scout out for Shazam. Satisfaction will get the better of him to start things off.
And this time around, though, Renegades trying to make their way out of bedroom. Not going to work out. Jacob, though, on a venture. Able to capitalize a little bit for now as Android's blinded out. He's the man with the AK-47 right now. If he goes down, that could be some severe firepower lost. That's the B side open.
Very good smoke from Renegades. Push through, though, from Android. He'll only be able to get one. And that was the play that potentially could have won the round for Complexity. You can see why he's gone for it. Renegades almost falling prey to it, but Gratisfaction just a little bit too good. Stanislaw does retrieve an AK and having a look in toward the B bomb site, but hasn't spotted anything just yet. The spray through the doors will really just tickle Gratisfaction at this point. Bomb to go down. Renegades have not been great at defending this B bomb site on the retakes, but that grenade onto Shazam certainly will help things out. 2v3 now, and Complexity with only a Molotov and a flashbang to work with to try and retake the site.
JKS getting tagged down quite low, just through the edge of the wall, or through the edge of the door, should I say in this case. And Yay trying to go in just a little bit too early, so 8-7's a halftime score.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good comeback from Renegades. They started off at, what, 0 and 5 down, so to be able to bring it back to 8-7, you have to be pleased with that as Renegades. But 8-7, it doesn't really leave, you know, it's basically as even as it's going to get. This one could still go either way. Complexity could just be really, really good on the T side. I mean, CT side sometimes can be difficult to get rolling. Once their economy was broken, that's where you saw Renegades start to get the advantages. So if Renegades don't start off with the pistol here, they start off poorly, lose the first gun round, then Complexity are going to start to run away with things here in the second half. You want to see Renegades build up that CT economy early on in the piece and make good work come out of it.
Similarly, though, Complexity did have that 6-0 start, and well, A, they squandered their opportunities they did have in a couple of these rounds, but also B, Renegades definitely fought back much better. Now compLexity, they're coming into the pistol once again. Trying to make it 2 out of 2 so far for Dust2, and it looks like they're doing pretty well at that.
They most certainly are. JKS is going to try and push and make a play, but all he does in the end is sacrifice his life. A bomb site well and truly cracked open for compLexity now. Azza and Jacob to try and salvage this one for Renegades, which is a very, very difficult task indeed. Jacob gets one on the trade for Azza, but a trade is obviously not too good for Renegades at this point. And Stanislaw shuts down Jacob. 8 apiece, compLexity. They're not going to be out of the running for too long.
CZ still out on the field, so not a walkover round just yet. Interesting to note that JKS also not really investing too heavily, just has the single HE grenade, doesn't decide to go for an upgraded pistol. You don't see that too often these days, but looks like Justin wants to value the utility. Might be that B-side player. Yeah,
well, we have seen JKS be the secondary AWP for Renegades of late, so you could think down the track, Renegades want to get the second AWP, the double AWP set up here on Dust2 fairly early on the piece, perhaps the reason why he has gone for the save. But it does make the Renegades buy look fairly weak with 2 players that don't have armor. So they are absolutely going to have to start with the first kill from this round. Gratisfaction's been spotted in pit as well, which will make his life a little more difficult. Azza wrapping a little bit further down long to provide some backup, but he can't get a whole lot done. And now Gratisfaction is going to have to go down fighting, or perhaps just go down. Nice little kill through the grenade smoke there. Android could not spot him, but it is still a 1-for-1, so nothing to get too excited about right now for Renegades. Gratisfaction, however, will find a second. Very dangerous with the CZ. Now has a couple of AKs for himself and for his buddy JKS. So at least for Renegades, they've managed to retrieve something out of this round, even if it won't be necessarily a round 1.
I don't know about that. There is a good opportunity for them to still go in on the back of this. Stanislaw is low. They've got 2 AKs retrieved. They're just not in the position, I guess, to go in. Ye is just cutting off this rotation, so...
Yeah, it's kind of a risk versus reward thing for the Renegades here. They say, do we want to risk these 2 AKs? Is the round reward good enough for us? I mean, at this point, I don't think that's an incorrect decision. Either you save, you get the 2 AKs out of it. That's still pretty good. Or you go through, you try and retake the bomb site, you potentially win it. I think the deciding factor in this scenario is that 2 of the players that are alive for Renegades and the 2 players that have the AKs don't actually have any armor. So that's going to make it obviously a little difficult trying to get that retake, unless they hit some really sharp shots entering the site. So this is the safer option, the percentage play from Renegades.
And plus, they're a little bit too far away as well. So I agree with the decision. Keep the AKs to fight another day.
Yeah, he's having a fantastic game at the moment, 18 and 8. Doing a lot of the heavy lifting for compLexity. Still no AWP yet for Shazam on the T side, but he does have the Scout. No purchase, again, from the Renegades, of course, but the AK will be handed over to Lias, who did have a bit of armor, and JKS purchases his own armor in this round. We'll see what these 2 guys can get done with that weaponry that they do have. A couple of CZs to back them up, as well as a Deagle, so it's not the weakest of buys for Renegades, certainly not great. But they have some tools to work with.
We saw what Gratisfaction do with the CZ. Got 2 kills and rewarded with 2 AK-47s to give at least Renegades a fighting chance in this round. Normally you'd see 5 USPs in this round.
Yeah, it was definitely better than 5 USPs. Gratisfaction is just going to have a peek in and see what he can find, but gets the timing wrong. Stanislaw punishes him for it. That is more or less the A bomb site opened up if compLexity want to just walk in from short, which is what Ye is doing at the moment. Not spotting too much.
Can't really just fully commit just yet. You don't know where these 2 AKs are. You don't know where the stack is. You're going to have to eventually group up and throw the last remaining smoke grenades to try to take control and see where to go. And it looks like Android... It's good from compLexity. Just try to sell at least a little bit of mid-control. Try to make Renegades a little bit more unsettled. There you are. 8 sites been taken. both AKs just going to be saved again, I'd say, on the hands of Liaz as well as JKS. That makes the next round a magnificent buy, in all honesty. And just back out from there.
JKS does spot one on the cross, but decides not to take any shots. Android coming in through the mid doors. We'll try and find a bit of damage. Obviously, he does have that MP5, so he's quite happy to sacrifice that for a little bit of extra cash if he can find it. It's not too big of a loss, given that he will be quite happy to upgrade in the end anyway. Quite a bit of damage done there, actually, by compLexity. Means that no AKs actually go through for Renegades. So that's a pretty good hunt in the end from that T side.
Yeah, just a very odd setup from Renegades. I would have thought they would have prioritized the two AK-47s and just bailed into the B bomb site and allowed the pistols to be kind of the sentries, the sacrifices, but it wasn't this case, I guess, this time. They can still get a buyout, but imagine you had two AKs saved over, you have two people with a full set of utility.
Yeah, most definitely. Maybe it would have even afforded Gratisfaction some armor if someone could have purchased an ult for him and dropped it over. Who knows? In the end, Renegades are going to have to make do with what they have got. And at the moment, that is full weaponry, but not a whole lot of utility. So they're really relying on the aim. And this is the kind of scary prospect that I spoke about for Renegades at the turn of the half. If they start off poorly in this first half, if they lose the first gun round, get reset, that's 11-8, and potentially even getting it worse. Liaz will back away, has the backup now of Gratisfaction, but it's only going to be a 1-for-1 at best, and Gratisfaction is kind of caught out in no man's land. Does manage to back off almost just enough, but in the end, Android so quick will shut him down. Azar at least was able to get one. A good pop flash, but Shazam will cover his teammate well. And now things start to look a bit precarious for Renegades.
Still got JK, still got JK up, and they've been the best performance so far for Renegades in this game in particular. Smokes on the cross. Android, he's low though. They've given the C4 to him, and well, Android's going to drop straight down just like that. JKS spraying through the smoke.
Yeah, and there's nowhere for Def to go now. Jacob or JKS out of the frying pan into the fire. Either way that you peek, everything falls on the shoulders of Shazam. The 1v2 here, incredibly critical for Renegades to win, and they will do just that. Jacob, very sharp, 18 and 17, like you said, has been one of, I think, actually the best performer for Renegades, and there you go, he has certainly been.
I think you got to look at it this way as well. I mean, it doesn't look impressive in terms of the KD ratio, but what he's been doing a lot of the time, he's been getting those rounds where he's had multiple impact frags that have won the round for Renegades, and that's why, and similar with JKS as well, it's not as if they're going around and going eco hunting. A lot of the time, the kills that they have gotten have been around victory.
Yeah. Just having a look at the buy from compLexity, it's a little bit interesting. Shazam has invested in an AWP to get his money back in line with the rest of his teammates. I don't know if Renegades would necessarily be expecting an AWP in this round, so there's a chance that he can actually catch them off, and Renegades' CT economy is still very, very weak. So they want to go through from this round with a lot of guns alive, but you just get the sense that with this AWP, Shazam is going to be able to do some work until Renegades figure out that he actually does have it.
Similarly, this is also a potential upgrade for Renegades to have a double AWP setup. So compLexity actually risking quite a bit at this stage.
I think it's a worthy investment. compLexity, I feel, have been dictating how most of this game has played out. Renegades have sort of just slightly been playing second fiddle. There's an opportunity for Shazam, which does go begging, and now the information is given to Renegades, and that is so important for the CT side. Now they can act accordingly, knowing that there is an AWP.
And to be fair, they're probably thinking, hang on a moment, we thought compLexity's economy is worse off than this. They're going to be scratching their heads wondering how they could still afford an AWP and potentially have AKs as well if the pistols haven't made any noise just yet. Jacob holding close, but he gets railed by Clock.
And JKS is out in the middle of nowhere. He's going to get a 1-for-1. Absolutely not enough right now. Shazam with the AWP opens up onto Azar. And this is not good at all for Renegades. Definitely not a round that you should be losing, and they most certainly have lost it in spectacular fashion. There'll be two guns through for compLexity. They've got an AK and a FAMAS from that B-bomb site, plus whatever else they could find lying around, or if they can find these remaining two Renegades players. Gratisfaction, an important shot onto Stanislaw, needs to keep this AWP alive. The money for Renegades is absolutely shocking. So Liaz and Gratisfaction, the two new entrants to this roster, will just try and take their guns through the next round to give some semblance of a buy to Renegades. but compLexity just stealing the carpet out from under them.
Yeah, Jake, and we saw him play that angle the previous round, I think, just peeking in and making sure he got information earlier on that Android wasn't peeking. But in that particular case, it was a one-and-done angle. He couldn't even get the single kill. Got taken out by a Glock. I don't know if he had head armor or not, but he didn't, and that was his death. Just like that. Unfortunate. Renegades now going to be on pretty much the eco, alongside with the saved weapons from before. And it's going to be a short fight. Very quickly in Gratisfaction. Just loses the AWP just like that.
Yeah, Liaz at least trading back, but still not a great trade for Renegades. 2 for 1. Jacob on the B site with the CZ needs to do something absolutely heroic. And most certainly does now, because Liaz and Azza have been caught by Ye on the rotation. Jacob is going to be able to drop one and will find the AWP. But in a 1v3, I don't fancy his chances.
You can see he was trying to turn around as well. Was able to pick off Shazam. Is going to try and save this AWP at the moment. Ye's already on the hunt. He's been phenomenal so far this game. A lot of good players from both sides, but Ye's really been the standout.
Might find himself another one here. Jacob has spotted him at least, but 57 HP. Jacob not necessarily known for his AWPing as well. And he is going to get wrapped by 3 players. Android in the end will shut him down. No AWP through this round for Renegades. Perhaps no buy even. It should put compLexity up to 13, which I feel is maybe a little bit too much of a mountain to climb now for Renegades. Things have gotten away from them just a little too much with that last round, which they did lose to the force buy. It wasn't even really a force buy though, Kevin. It was just an AWP purchase for compLexity. The pistols even did work. Essentially, Renegades lost to a pistol buy, and that has thrown their CT side into complete and utter chaos right now. But it is going to be just the save for Renegades now.
I was going to say they actually lost against a Glock, but Stanislaw picks up and goes, yeah, there's 4 here, guys.
Oh, this nade. Oh, a lot of damage, Stanislaw with 1 kill and a heck of a lot to follow that up with. Jacob does get Stanislaw. They're going to look for the gun, but it's only an MP5 that they'll be able to retrieve, so not really much to write home to mum about for Renegades.
They're trying to look for this AWP as well, but don't think this is the best. It's not going to be an opportunity they can really take, unfortunately, at the end of the day. And Renegades, they have the opportunity to go for the double AWP setup if they choose to do so. JKS does have the cash for it alongside with Gratisfaction, but don't know where they'd set up these AWPs. One on the B site. Oh, they're going to be trying to take this long A control. They're going to be trying to take this short control. And what are compLexity going to be doing on their side? Are they going to go fast? They're going to go slow? They can do a lot of things right now. They've got that luxury of economy as well as round lead as well.
Yeah, well, Gratisfaction with the AWP has floated around mid and long. JKS does indeed go for the secondary AWP, as we spoke about earlier. Liaz yet to buy, but in the end does go for fairly standard stuff. Utility rifles out for Renegades. This is their last chance, though. If they drop this gun round, it's pretty much done. So keep an eye on where JKS is. At the moment, he is having a look into mid. We'll see Def. I think that was actually up towards short. Indeed it was. JKS decides to fall into the B site, away from mid. Not much presence in mid now for Renegades, and compLexity are going to take advantage of it by sneaking on out. But Azza will cause a bit of a ruckus, not to mention Jacob there for the crossfire. JKS is going to town with the AWP, and Azza finds the perfect timing to come out through that smoke. Only a 1-for-1, but that's enough for Renegades to take control of the round. Hold on to it quite nicely. The double AWP will go through, as they're the only one to have to reinvest. So it's done quite nicely by the Renegades economy. compLexity, of course, still have oodles of cash. And we'll rebuy into the round. So another one for Renegades that is ever so critically important. Every single round now for Renegades becomes important.
As soon as they drop a single round, that means insta reset, and that's definitely not good. But it looks like it's going to be this fast short control coming out once again. Azza, he's in a position to do some impact, but he can't connect any of the A4 shots. Going to have to bail that. Gratisfaction on the corner with the AWP. Unable to land the shots, and Yay once again. He's just too sharp today.
Yeah, on the entries, he has been fantastic. Gratisfaction, probably not long for this world. Waiting on the line, hoping that Def is going to give them the opportunity to hit this shot with the AWP. But now for Renegades, it becomes less about winning this round and trying to now save the AWP, which is going to be impossible in the end. With these 2 rifles through, I guess Renegades will get a half-decent buy, but that's definitely not the round that they want to be losing. Straight after the one that they win, instant loss bonus reset.
And once again,
go up to 14.
And once again, it's just Yay coming out, just getting those entries. He's just lightning quick. It's before you know it, 2 bodies have hit the floor, and he just goes, "Yay, I've done my job."
Yeah. No one can deal with Yay. As unfortunately not able to get much done, and then his teammates kind of out of position to help him. He could have said maybe it was better off for him to go down into CT spawn, survive, but that would have given control of the site to compLexity anyway. 14-10, tactical timeout now for Renegades. Boy, do they need it. 4 rounds down. It doesn't sound like much, but it has been such a slog for this Oceanic roster. compLexity have definitely shown their class against Renegades today. In particular, Yay has been doing quite a bit of work. I don't feel like Renegades have necessarily been out of this matchup. It's just that compLexity have always been one step ahead. And when that important round ticks over, that one for compLexity where Shazam bought the AWP and the rest of them had pistols, Renegades did falter. That's the deciding moment. That's the moment that really changed how this match was going to play out. It was, at that point, still pretty even. Renegades hanging in there, but that was the moment where compLexity started to pull ahead.
Upper's take going to come out from the CTs, but Android's there. Android and Yay.
Yeah. Smoke down does keep Yay from progressing too far forward, but obviously not an amazing trade for Renegades, 2 for 1, and they haven't gotten rid of Yay yet either, which is really the player that they do need to dislodge.
I think this is the part where compLexity should be able to pressure that A long position instead. They have a pretty good read of what's going on at this stage. After getting 2 kills at that B site, as well as a smoke coming in afterwards, should be able to read that there's one over at that mid area. They know JKS steals the AWP, so they're not going to risk going on a catwalk without a smoke grenade. And they're all just going to go through together at the same time.
Who's going to step up for Renegades in this round? Because somebody needs to.
Somebody plays for Tyloo.
Yeah, unfortunately he's not on this team.
You're going to need JKS to hit some nutty shots. I don't think the FAMASas can do enough. 2 smokes coming out on the cross as well. JKS
doesn't even spam through the smoke. So now with that bomb plant, Renegades are going to have to save. Which you say would give them some semblance of hope in the next round, though that hope is dwindling quite quickly.
It is better than having pistols and SMGs. It is better to have 2 FAMASas, utility, and an AWP.
Well, not to mention now that they've actually found the AK and the M4, so definitely is a bit of a bonus there for Renegades, but it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Here's another bitter pill to swallow, actually. You know that the image of bitter pills to swallow that tell you the truth?
Yeah.
This is always how Renegades lose. It's when you think about how Renegades lose, it's always one critical round that something goes wrong.
Yeah.
It is a bitter pill to swallow as an Aussie fan, but it is the truth. And compLexity, they've just looked too good today, especially the side of Yay.
Yeah.
It's just been the difference.
Okay, I don't know if necessarily this is a terrible result, really, for Renegades, given how new this roster is.
I agree with you. It's not a terrible result, but there were definitely some opportunities, and oftentimes you're looking at the opportunities that you could have taken.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think this was absolutely winnable for Renegades. But compLexity, like I said, have been just one step ahead of them. Gratisfaction will be pop flashed out into mid. Does get Stanislaw. Nice start for Renegades in this 26th round. It has not always gone to plan for Renegades, so they have 5 rounds to claw back here if they still want to find a way to win this map. Very, very tough ask. So
I don't see. I don't think compLexity has anyone who knows how to do the CT smoke because I haven't seen it come out just yet. Unless they're going to be attacking this A-bomb site. Gratisfaction on a wander out, double spray down.
3 kills for him in this round, and that's pretty much shut compLexity down, at least for now. Doesn't quite look for the ace there as Shazam will shut him down from car. This might actually allow opportunity for a bomb plan if one more kill goes. He wants to have a crack at the bomb plant straight away. Already Renegades have rotated across, so a better round from the CTs. But we've seen that, we've said that before. The trouble is for Renegades, the consistency from these CT rounds hasn't been there. It hasn't been enough to build the CT economy up. It hasn't been enough to get them in a position, in a winnable position. Right now, this is still not a winnable position. They need to get to 15-15 before they can even think about winning this matchup.
Oh, 1 round at a time, right?
Well, stringing 5 rounds together is a pretty difficult task on that CT side at the best of times. And for Renegades, we haven't seen them get close to that so far. So this is going to have to be a comeback of monumentous proportions.
I mean, this is a round that's already starting off quite nicely as well as Liaz decides to finally show up in the server and get some kills.
Fairly good job of it as well. Executed by Stanislaw, however. And if Renegades keep giving these 1v1 duels to compLexity, we could find some problems headed in the direction of the CTs. Namely, compLexity hitting 16 rounds. Bomb down, but nice little pop flash does catch Shazam off, as it will find Stanislaw as well. Double AWP to come through once again for Renegades.
Yeah, just compLexity going fast, furious, too quickly in, and might still force buy here, but I don't think that's the best advisable option. Could probably drop a few pistols here, but definitely this matchup is going to be a lot closer in compLexity. Now their turn to actually take a tactical timeout. They realize it's not that easy to be trying to defeat someone who has nothing to lose right now.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what Renegades are, I guess, at this point. You look at them, you say it's a new roster. If they lose, okay, fair enough. They've at least had a good crack at it. They've made it close. And Renegades, I guess at that point, where they just say, let's play this game out. Let's just use it as a bit of practice on the CT side of Dust2. See how many we can get. Maybe we do get lucky. Maybe we get to that overtime. I think at the moment, solid rounds for Renegades. And the buy won't be great for compLexity in this one. But then again, these kinds of buys, actually, it will be quite good.
Okay, so it looks
Took a
like
little while for the HUD to update.
Yeah, it depleted all their economy, but they do have AKs, and they do have the utility to back it up. But for Renegades, double AWP setup still in their hands. They've got this long control. They've got Liaz posted on short. It's going to be the calling point once again as Depth as well as Stanislaw taking this short control.
Well, compLexity just bleeding out some of the utility from Renegades. That's a nice grenade to Def, down to 54 HP. But now, after the first minute of the game has gone by, Renegades do look a little bit worse for wear in terms of the grenades department. No smokes, no Molotovs. Just flashbangs now for Renegades to hold these sites off, which is better than nothing.
The flip side here as well, that compLexity only have, well, they've just used their last 2 smokes. They have to commit on the back of this. They have to commit on this B-split now. Surely they do. And Azza, when is he going to come out and just surprise them? If he finds the correct timing, he could mow them down right now. The bomb's been lost, but Yay, of course it's Yay, once again bailing them out.
Yeah, JKS with a critical aim battle here between 2 different angles. He's actually going to find Yay, who was being pressured by his teammates. Had an opportunity there onto Shazam as well. But he's been bailed out quite nicely by Liaz and JKS. And now Shazam won't be long for this world. That was a very touchy moment for Renegades. Could have really gone either way, but the A in the end just being pressured too much in middle. And it was a nice crossfire setup between Jacob and Azza. Jacob to take the first contact. Azza pops out the smoke. They get the 2 for 2, which slows down complexity enough for the rest of the rotate across from Renegades. And a 13th is up now. And a pistol buy is out from complexity. JKS opens up onto Def. One would think that Renegades should easily negotiate this round. And then it just comes down to that one final gun round in this map that could make or break for complexity and for Renegades.
I mean, it'd be a victory for Renegades at this stage, considering if it's still the same Pro League ruling to get the single point, if you get into overtime, even if you lose, better than no points. So
yeah,
I'm a firm believer of 1 point's better than 0 points, and a little bit of damage done from complexity, but I don't think it's enough to really. Oh, okay, Android.
Yeah, Jacob being a one-shot as well, but Gratisfaction, an easy kill for him there. 15's up still for complexity, however, and that's what Renegades need to be careful of. All it takes is one round. Doesn't matter how many you got in a row, Renegades. All it's going to take for complexity now is that one round. You can see match point. Renegades with their final chance to push this one through to overtime. They've come back well into this game. CT side has started to work for them once the double AWP did come into effect. But did it come into effect too late? We're about to find out.
So complexity just applying some early short pressure, but Stanislaw drops the AWP off the angle and just falls off.
Yeah, and that's good pressure as well from complexity. Again, look at the utility here for Renegades. They still don't have a huge amount. Obviously, they came into it with pretty much full utility, but they've used so much early on in the piece. We're not even 40 seconds into the round. And complexity have essentially bled Renegades dry. They come into the B site. Jacob does well to get the first, second as well, but he'll be traded out. Gratisfaction from downtown does get a player running up short into the A bomb site. 3v2 for the retake here. An incendiary and 3 flashbangs to work with for Renegades. But the bomb goes down for complexity. Shazam posted up on the line watching Upper Dark, which is not where Renegades are coming from.
They're on to a retake, though. That's always going to be difficult, and Shazam's going to be mollied out, and he's by himself at the moment. We're going into overtime. Renegades able to get the final 5 rounds they needed to in complexity. Just let it slip a couple of times, but similarly, though, Renegades did definitely step up their game.
I think JKS on that B site with the AWP, big proponent of the success there for Renegades coming back in those 5 rounds. Not to mention that mid control from Jacob and Azza as well did pay off quite substantially. I didn't think Renegades could bring back those 5 rounds. Call me a non-believer, but I've seen it too many times. You know, I've watched Renegades too many times suffer a loss in a round like that and then just capitulate. But good to see for Renegades fans at least that they're able to bring it back to overtime. Now, though, the job's still not yet done. Like I said, they need to get back to 15-15 before they even think about winning this map. Now, they can start to think about closing it out.
And similarly, economy is not going to be an issue for either sides now, so I wonder how it's going to go for complexity as well as Renegades coming into this section. Does complexity, are they able to, I mean, Renegades just seem to have the upper hand on their CT setup, where complexity couldn't find any holes. They started running, they just had to start running at Renegades, which I just don't think like it was a good idea for some reason. Well, it wasn't a good idea. It didn't really work out, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, it sort of all hangs in the balance now, doesn't it?
Just a little bit. Just a little.
A little.
But at least both sides have secured themselves 1 point for now.
I don't think Gratisfaction has been up to his usual form. I don't know if that's fair to say, but to me it just seems like he's missing a few of the shots that I would normally expect him to hit.
I mean, here's the thing. Gratisfaction, I felt like in certain rounds, he definitely had the impact, but who hasn't had impact so far is Liaz and Azza. Like, Azza's had 1 or 2 good rounds. Liaz maybe had 1 or 2 good rounds, but it's mainly been a forgettable performance from them, where we can give a little bit of exception to Azza, considering that he's calling and whatnot. Look, he had a monstrous performance yesterday. It was his birthday yesterday as well. Might be feeling the after effects.
Potentially. I'm not so sure that it's too bad of a situation, though, for Renegades. You know, like, not everyone can pop off every single game. And obviously Liaz and Gratisfaction are still sort of figuring out how things work here in the North American region, and maybe the meta's a little bit different, not necessarily the timings that they're used to, that kind of thing. Not a great start to the round, a little bit of aggression there from Renegades where they try to push JKS through mid doors. Suffer quite a hefty amount of damage for it, so they'll fall back to a little bit more of a default sort of setup here. You'd want to see Renegades be able to get 3-0 on this CT side based on them being able to get that 5-round comeback. But anything less than a 2-1 here on the CT side is really going to leave the door open quite ajar for compLexity to just stick their foot in and perhaps run away with the map.
So we're going for the classic B split once again. They don't really have this mid control just yet on the side of compLexity. JKS going to be smoked off, has a lot of work to do. CT going to be smoked off now. That should be a good indication of what's going on as Jacob also spots what's happening. JKS gets the first pick with the AWP, but one is going to come out. That's going to be Yay, and JKS is going to burn.
He is not going to burn because Def is going to shut him down first. Doesn't matter, it's the same result in the end. Renegades will have trouble making this retake work unless they find Android for free. And even then, that is going to be a difficult prospect. Gratisfaction will get Yay, which initially looks good, but straight away Android is able to find himself one. Liaz does get Android in the end, but at this point for Renegades, is the retake even the opportunity? Gratisfaction might have spotted Def coming through the smoke, so that really has left it open. Shazam now into the 1v1 as he does get Liaz. Gratisfaction trying to clutch it out, and Shazam down to 24 HP. This is doable for Gratisfaction. He gets the job done, and he does just have time for the defuse as well. Great stuff from Gratisfaction. And the first CT round up there for Renegades, 16-15.
Yeah, compLexity. What do you say about that one? Started going on trying to make individual plays. They know both were coming through CT, and Def decides to just dive into a smoke grenade. That's what I call a questionable play at best. You do that, it's a 10% play.
Like, for me, it looked like Renegades were even kind of on the verge of being like, you know what, let's just leave this round, let's save these AKs through. But as soon as Liaz sees, or Liaz or Gratisfaction, I can't remember who, sees the player go through into that smoke, the spray down comes across, they get that pick, and then it's pedal to the metal, and they manage to come away with the round. Double off once again for Renegades, obviously losing 4 players in that round, but MR3 16k does allow you to pretty much buy whatever you want all the time. So compLexity will have to deal with that once again. Gratisfaction setting himself on the line. 24 and 14 for the map so far. So while I say he hasn't necessarily been hitting shots that I might expect him to, he's definitely been putting in work. But see, that's what I'm talking about. This is not Gratisfaction that we're used to.
To be fair, that is a heck of a hard shot to be hitting with Android.
No, I'm not saying that he would hit that, but I'm saying he wouldn't have even taken that shot normally. I think.
True. You're definitely correct on that. And that allows compLexity a bit of opportunity to drop down into CT and make a meander up as Android. He's able to take down Azza, and, well, there's just no other control coming out as Android denies the control.
Yeah, just giving up a little bit too much of the map. Not sure what went wrong there for Renegades. It just seemed like maybe it was like Azza didn't even seem to recognize that there was anyone in CT. I don't know if he was watching up towards short or something, but I don't know. I felt like he got caught off a little bit where he wouldn't ordinarily. But rather good round for compLexity. It's going to put them up to 16.
To be honest, it's very difficult to realize what compLexity are doing in terms of that. There's a bunch of flashbangs coming over. You're trying to hide around A ramp and default. You're being volleyed out. There's smokes that are confusing you. And the last thing that you probably expect is Android, 4 seconds after the smokes and the flashbangs wear off, is that he's at your A ramp ready to take the deal. So yeah. A bit forgivable in that instance. It looks like they got tons of time to react, but you can imagine how frantic their team comms would be. Yeah, but as a result, compLexity, they finally throw something new, and as a result, they get their first round into overtime, and Stanislaw just looking to do some damage to the walls.
Which he will. JKS dropped below half, so already a nice start. He's going to go for a pretty quick peek into upper dark.
Now, this line doesn't make me miss old Dust2, because that line before you could peek into and see a T when the T couldn't even see you. It was filthy.
Well, new map, new me, right? Renegades haven't spotted much yet, though. But conversely to some of the previous CT rounds that we've seen from Renegades, they've held on to the majority of their utility early in the round. So we're not necessarily in the late stages of the round just yet, but there's definitely a lot more utility available toward the mid-round for Renegades than there has been up to this point. Which is overall a benefit, assuming they do use it. Smoke going down? No. Something going down there from Renegades. But compLexity really biding their time at the moment.
What Renegades have noticed is that compLexity, they don't just go wandering out. There's no such thing as a contact play or a risky play. They will always make a play on the back of utility. So Renegades go, hang on a moment, why do we need to use utility first? We just got to wait for their utility and then move on this. But it looks like compLexity have managed to sell at Renegades. No one realizes that it's actually going to be an A-site taken. Android in such a critical position at the moment.
Needs to win that aim battle against Liaz, but cannot quite. If he won that, that was pretty much the round for compLexity. Now it still sort of hangs up in the balance. While Renegades do have the player advantage, compLexity can certainly make this 3v4 work. Def pushed forward. Bit of an off angle for him here, just holding through the smoke. If Renegades get a little bit lax, that'll be an easy kill for him. And it is JKS, or rather Jacob solo on that angle. Satisfaction will get one. Jacob does win the aim battle against Def, so even if he does go down here, that's okay, but he does very well. And the round will go the way of Renegades. 17-16, 2 on the CT side. I think the par score. CT side has been just a little bit stronger, I feel, for Renegades there, at least of late. But it's not over yet for compLexity either.
This is going to sound really odd to say, but I think Renegades have this match now in the bag. Unless something goes catastrophically wrong, they should have the answers at this stage. You look at how they performed on their T side at the end, they did a lot better than compLexity. On their CT side against the T side of compLexity, they just did stronger, they did better, they had all the correct reads, and this match has been really good for their synergy so far. You can slowly start seeing all these pieces click together, whereas for compLexity, I don't think they necessarily found the answer, and some of the players are starting to drop off now. Ye's not had the impact that he had in the regulation rounds, and Depp as well, Stanislaw just been unable to connect with shots, and they're going to be starting to feel it. Gratisfaction, he's going out on a venture, and he gets the first opening pick.
Yeah, vintage Gratisfaction there for anyone that's not used to the Australian region. He does like to play very aggressive early in the round, not only on CT, but also on T. Liaz does have the task of just watching Bedroom here. Yeah, in position to shut him down, however, and will do that. You have to back Ye to win Angels now, after what we've seen from him this map. But with the opening from Gratisfaction, it is still a 4v4, which is obviously beneficial for Renegades. Being on that T side, bringing it to 4 on the CT is always nice, splitting those sites up.
Now, what I think they don't know is that there is a double up setup that's going on in Stanislaw. It's going to be boosted up on CT. Call out is going to happen, but they're going to commit on this regardless. Stanislaw, it's all down to Def now, holding onto the site.
Yeah, they're going to peek him one by one. Definitely be able to get 2. JKS now shot in the back by Shazam. And just a smart use of the Molotov there from Def does restrict the avenue of attack into the B site. Renegades on a timer. They know that the players are coming from behind them, so they try to sort of force their way through window, but doesn't work out in their favor. Def holding strong with the AWP. Now, the information about the double AWP, though, is given to Renegades. I don't think compLexity ran a double AWP at all in regular time on their CT side. So it was something new for Renegades to deal with.
Did it ever have that info? Did it ever have the economy to do so? But with that information, what adaptations are they going to make? They're going to boost up JKS into lower dark just to spot the short angle, but Stanislaw is not going to be peeking it. Or is he?
Was close.
It's gone back to your very standard compLexity default hold. There's nothing too special going on in terms of their short or long A hold.
It's a very strong A hold here, though. Shazam and Stanislaw, so difficult to deal with. Utility from Renegades will be imperative, and it works out perfectly. A good flash for Shazam. Stanislaw, I think, also might have gotten caught, but regardless, the aim battle goes the way of Jacob, and Azza Fantastic shot onto Shazam. The headshot shuts him down. That's the A site now in the favor of Renegades. They can plant wherever they want. And JKS holding down mid alongside a couple of his players. Renegades still waiting for that bomb to actually make its way to the A site. So it's kind of like when you had a delivery. You know, it's always like, oh, we'll be arriving on Monday. And you're there all day at home on Monday waiting for the delivery.
Oh, yeah, and you get carded. You get carded, dude.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, your delivery's at the post office. We missed you. It's like, no, you didn't. Well, at least it arrives here for Renegades. Better late than never, right? You'd rather on Wednesday than on, well, never, I suppose. So bombs down for Renegades. That's the takeaway. Round probably going to go their way as well. 2v3 now for the retake, but JKS wrapping around the back. I don't think it's possible for compLexity now, given the time that has ticked away. But there'll be plenty of money for compLexity in the next round to try and bring it back to 18 apiece. But now Renegades are the ones that have got match point in their favor, which has not been something that they've had. compLexity had 5 or 6 match points that they didn't take advantage of, and now Renegades have 1. Let's see if they can take advantage of it, or if we're going to go to overtime number 2.
Double up setup coming out once again from compLexity. Honestly, it has been working for them, but what hasn't been working for them so far has been
full
the side hold. Yes.
Obviously, JKS has got an auto sniper, but he's going to swap back to an AK. Quickly into the B bomb site here for Renegades. This might not go too well. Android posted on one lane, Def on the other, and Android will shut down 3. Jacob does manage to get Def, but it's just not going to be enough there to keep the numbers advantage in the favor of Renegades. A risky play into the B bomb site. They felt as though they could make the rush work. Maybe they had the spawn for it. I don't know. But now it falls on the 2 JKs for Renegades, Jacob and JKS, to try and hold against this retake in a 2v3. Lots of utility to work with for compLexity. And now just JKS left alive on his own. We know that he can clutch, but this is a very tough one. Players coming from all angles. Needs to deal with Upper Dark first, and will. Yay drops. JKS, however, will as well, and that's OT number 2. compLexity pushes through.
Man, you saw a brief window of opportunity for JKS to win that one. But Jacob, he was just boxed in between 2 Molotovs, and he was a flame sandwich, which is never a pleasant situation to be in at the end of the day. Yeah. But double overtime.
I'm very surprised that Renegades go for a strategy like that. We've not seen them do that at all.
I think it's fine because you've got the advantage to do so. But the problem there was, I think it was a correct call. They didn't land their shots.
Okay.
Because the first 3 people out, I don't think did any damage. And I just went, that's really cool. Like, you have 3 people going out. You know vaguely where the CTs are. You have the AK-47, and you didn't do any damage.
Yeah, so... Well, OT number 2. Renegades have had 1 chance at the match point. compLexity certainly have had a few more. Gratisfaction will get the better of Def. What we're looking for right now, based on at least the last overtime, is extra rounds on that T side. If you get 2 on the T side, then you're setting yourself up pretty nicely, because the CT rounds have been a little bit easier to come by of late. So this is a good start for Renegades. Already the kill onto Def, the damage onto Shazam.
And that's just in the back of Renegades actually playing a smart default as well. They realize they can be the short risk. JKS isn't in the position this time around. JKS, though, in the position to make sure this B push is at least punished.
Yeah, 1-for-1's fine when you have player advantage like that for Renegades. And look at the position here of Jacob. He's going to spot out Stanislaw. Does a huge amount of damage in the end. Actually connects the final headshot through the box. A little bit overkill, but gets the job done. Gratisfaction, another kill there with the AWP. He will be traded out by Shazam, but 1v3 now for Shazam. You have to think that this round is all but a write-off now.
Oh, I don't know about that. They're all in one-on-one angles right now until Azza decides to peek around from behind.
Yeah. It was just, like, he was kind of surrounded. So, I mean, he could have found 1v1s, but you would have had to have known where all of those Ts were waiting. And given their positions, it was just a little bit weird as to where they were holding. So, always going to be tough for him. Renegades with a very monstrous mid-buy here. Auto sniper for Liaz, 2 AWPs, Gratisfaction and Azza. And it's all for naught. None of that is going to work for Renegades. Not a single tick of damage. What a waste of money.
Yeah, Death needs to be careful here. He needs to flash himself in.
Well done by Def.
Oh, this Molotov incendiary grenade is going to be nullified quite nicely coming out from JKS. That's just smart play. Smart play from both sides.
Yeah, definitely. The grenade here. Oh, that's a fair chunk of damage onto Gratisfaction. Must have got him right in the head. So no great opening in this round for Renegades. And no push on the CT side either. I wonder if Azza has a AK to fall back on here in T-spawn. Looks like he's going back there, so let's see. Yeah, he does. That's good news, at least. 1 minute off the clock, and what have Renegades achieved up to this point? A little bit of utility spent by compLexity. A little bit of control of the map up through short. And some idea of what's going on in bedroom. But it's not amazing control of the map just yet for Renegades, especially if they are going to hit this A site. JKS again going to be watching for the rotation, the push from compLexity into Upper Dark. But with 30 seconds on the clock now, Renegades do need to group up. They do need to make some sort of entry to one of these bomb sites. By the looks of things, it will be B. Mid to B smokes are out.
But there's three people on the B side though. JKS needs to get this first kill. Won't be able to do so, and I think this should all go in the favor, surely, of compLexity at this stage. They're just walking in way too slowly in depth. I mean, he does miss a shot. It's all down to Jacob now, but not in position. Not in position.
All right. Renegades just not doing enough in the early stages of that round. Again, 19 apiece. One more round in this half of the overtime.
And compLexity are doing really well choking out Renegades as well. In terms of this double orb setup, it's so perilous to go against because you don't want to be peeking into angles willy-nilly as Renegades. You want to be taking your time, making sure. But you can probably see around that 30-second mark when they're throwing their smokes, probably as is going, oh, we'll go over here. Hold that thought, though. Fast A.
Yeah, very fast A, as you talked maybe about him not necessarily stepping up in this matchup. Well, that is two very big impact frags from him on the entry. And it really opens up the entire map now, and it just needs Renegades to slow things down, prepare themselves, get ready. Android does make a play, however. That's going to be a 1 for 0. No one trading him out. Liaz does win the aim duel at the cost of a little bit of HP, but what a great round from Liaz here. 3 kills. 3 hugely important kills as well, because if he dies there, it brings it back to a 3v3. compLexity once again sort of in a position where they can stabilize, but not this time. Renegades will go up to 20. compLexity again facing a deficit heading into the second half, but this time Renegades are moving over onto the CT side. They've gotten 2 on their T.
Yeah, whereas for compLexity, I don't know what's going... it was just really strange. compLexity are making a couple of odd decisions every now and then, and as a result, Renegades, they're making mainly the right decisions most of the time, and I feel like that's really where it boils down to. Also helps when Gratisfaction is fragging it about as big as Yay. Don't even remember most of Gratisfaction's frags, but there you go. He has more kills than Yay now, so...
Gratisfaction certainly has stepped up of late. Always has been a good AWP map, Dust2. But I still feel as though Gratisfaction has something left in the tank. Which is a scary prospect for his opponents in the future. Misses this shot, and that's not been an angle that has worked out too well for anybody today. So gets Yay, which has been the danger man from compLexity, and also finding Android, not to mention that damage onto Shazam as well. This is going to give Gratisfaction the confidence to re-peak once again, as it will eventually drop, but that's a very good trade for Renegades. 4 for 2, and Def finds himself alone now without control of the bomb. JKS watching from a very nice angle. It'll get smoked off there by Def. He does have time to work with, but wow, what a great shot from JKS.
Jeez.
2 match points now for Renegades.
That is not an easy shot to be hitting, but JKS just makes it... Every single time you say that, you just go, man, JKS is hitting this. compLexity, just not able to take the aim deals and just moving so quickly to try to catch Renegades off by shock and awe. It's just not working at this particular point in time. And Renegades in the perfect situation right now to try to close it out. Might be a fast B.
Perhaps not, however, as the Molotov will go down from Renegades. So utility does keep compLexity at bay. A lot of utility being spent early in the round now by Renegades. Again, this time on CT, with a minute and 22 left, they've got, what, 2 smokes, two incendiaries. It's going to come down to the mid push. Stanislaw and Ye have dropped. Azza stepping up in the last 2 rounds. A 3rd kill for him as well. And now 4 versus 2. Jacob has the confidence to peek into B, but that might have been his undoing. So he does fall, puts it back into a 2v3. Azza low on HP. Won't be able to do too much from window, but the Molotov does miss.
Oh no, that's actual disaster because, oh my goodness. Azza so close to denying the bomb plant. He has actually slowed it down.
If he had a little more HP there, he might have actually gotten it, but look at the positioning of Shazam. Easily kill for Gratisfaction with the Molotov. Good comms from Azza, I must assume. And 2v1 for Liaz and Gratisfaction, the remaining new players for Renegades. They'll get it. They've done it. And Gratisfaction to close it out for Renegades. Fittingly enough, in the end, 22-19, Renegades will close out map 1. It was a very, very long one in the end, but Renegades do close it out and do come away with the victory from what looked to be, Kevin, a sure defeat.
I wouldn't have said sure defeat, but compLexity definitely had the opportunities to win it.
Well, they had 5 match points, I think, and well, it's good to see that Renegades have the mental fortitude to be able to come back from that one. And nice to see as well Gratisfaction stepping up there. Obviously, this is his 3rd game, 3rd official with the Renegades roster, 3rd official overseas and in a new environment and that kind of thing. And doesn't seem to have lost too much of that pizzazz.
Yeah, I mean, for compLexity as well, some of the firepower did fall off towards the end. The strategy just, I don't know, sometimes it was on point and then it went bizarre. Whereas for Renegades, at least you could see what their thought process was. I couldn't really follow what compLexity's thought processes were at some times. So, I don't know, a few questions asked, I guess, but Renegades are looking the goods towards the end.
Yeah, compLexity will have a few questions for themselves after that one. They're going to have to go back and have a look at that. They would be thinking, you know, we really should have closed that map out. What went wrong there? There's probably a lot to learn from that one there on Dust2, but they're not going to be able to do too much about it now. It's all in the past. They have to look toward the future. Next map is going to be Mirage, which is compLexity's map choice. But Renegades already starting off with a map win here is, I think, a pretty good result for them today against compLexity. You sort of said maybe you even thought that compLexity could get the 2-0 today. I don't think that that was an unreasonable prediction at all, based on the form of compLexity, based on the fact that Renegades is a new roster. But for the Aussie fans out there, and not just the Aussie fans, I suppose the New Zealand and the Norwegian fans out there, this is a exciting sign for Renegades. Obviously, it's still early days. compLexity isn't necessarily toward, you know, the top tier of competition here in North America, but they are looking like a strong squad. So every single time Renegades manage to find a map win here in NA Pro League, you can bet that everyone on Reddit's going to be filling up the YTBs and all that jazz.
I'm still trying to figure out what went wrong for compLexity at this stage.
Well, yeah, he just kind of stopped popping off.
I mean, Android did take over quite well, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, it was just a few decisions where they went, oh, we should be doing some pushes here, try to maybe throw a couple of spanners in the works a little bit too late, right? Because when they're executing on their T side, it was very stock standard. As soon as they threw the grenades, you knew from Renegades they were coming in. Whereas Renegades at the very least had the opportunity, or they tried doing a few different things where they went, all right, we're going to take a slow default this time around. We're going to wait for them to come because we know it's compLexity are playing aggressive on their CT side. Okay, we're going to go fast this round. We've got that luxury to do so. Doesn't work out. I still think it's a correct call. Whereas for compLexity, sometimes it was, they just went fast, and there was no other second gear.
Yeah, potentially something in that. And that's interesting to sort of note because when we were talking about this before the match started, we were saying, you know, compLexity probably should be the team that have a little bit more behind them. They've probably got more strategies. They've been together as a roster a little bit longer. But Renegades seem to be the ones that were able to change things up a lot more than what compLexity were able to do. I mean, a big proponent of Renegades coming back into that was obviously the firepower that they had available to them. There was a lot of individuals stepping up in certain rounds. I think everyone had their specific round, multiple rounds at the end there from Azza to finally put that nail in the coffin for compLexity. But that, I think, again, was a big proponent of the success for Renegades. And that was a storyline that we even started telling when we knew that this roster was going to have Liaz and Gratisfaction, was that it is going to be a firepower kind of heavy roster.
Yeah, and I mean, it showed in that matchup at the end of the day where compLexity, they couldn't really take the aim deals at the end against your Gratisfaction, against Azza even, who was having a late resurgence in double overtime. So
Yeah. All right, Kevin, it's that time of a day. Let's talk about our favorite computer products from MSI. I'm not sure how many you've got, but I have at least one MSI product in my computer.
the 1070, right?
That is my 1070, correct. Everyone knows I've got a 1070. I've told this story so many times. You're probably going to hear it throughout the rest of the season as well, unfortunately for everyone viewing. But yeah, I love my 1070, and it works quite nicely.
Yeah, it's great for playing games like, I don't know.
Well, I initially actually bought it to play PUBG because back in the day, PUBG ran so woefully and everyone was playing it. So I was like, I have to upgrade. I had a 660 Ti at the time.
Yeah.
Jumped on the 1070 hype train. Thought about getting...
660?
Yeah, 660.
Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. This was like a year ago I bought the 1070. Anyway, that's a story for another day. What we're looking at now, though, compLexity and Renegades, moving on to Mirage. compLexity, it's their first match of the Pro League. You can kind of say, okay, fair enough. Forgive them for dropping that one. Maybe warm their way into this season. But next map, Mirage, it's their own map choice. They really need to step up with something and probably kick it into second gear.
And we can also look on the other side as well, where compLexity, they've just come back from a couple of overseas tournaments, so maybe it's just a little bit of a period where they may be going, all right, we'll take a bit of recovery, so it's not going to be 100% tight as it will be like for Renegades, because Renegades, they're coming in this with full focus right now. So
Absolutely. This is their time to shine, really, isn't it?
Exactly, because they have something to prove, whereas compLexity don't have as much to prove, if that makes... I know it sounds really weird, but...
No, I get your point. Anyway, let's figure out how everything is going to go in the next map. We are going to head to a quick break, guys. Don't go anywhere, though. Renegades and compLexity on Mirage up next.